everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we've got an upper intermediate level lesson for you all about money.
That's right. We are going to talk about the stock market. So a very interesting topic, very current as well, because, well, throughout the world, stock markets are not doing very well.
That's right. And you may have seen on the television a lot of information about this. So today we're going to hopefully explain some of the things and phrases and words that you've been hearing. But first, we've got a couple of important indicators, a couple of acronyms actually that you're going to hear about. So let's look at those in today's vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
All right, so the first word that we have on vocabulary preview is the NASDAQ. NASDAQ.
N-A-S-D-A-Q. So this is basically the American stock market.
Right. It's an acronym. Now, it's a really, really long acronym, so we're not going to get into it, but it is basically the American stock market where all these companies are trading stock. Publicly traded companies.
Right. So publicly traded companies, you're basically trading their stocks through NASDAQ.
Right. And now the next one that we have is an indicator which tells us how well some companies or some stock are doing, and that's the Dow Jones indicator.
Dow Jones indicator. So maybe if the Dow Jones is really low for something, we think, man, it's not doing so well.
Right.
If it goes up, things are improving.
Right. So usually the Dow Jones it's based upon the 50 biggest companies in the United States, the 50 biggest publicly traded companies. Now, you can divide it into like industrial companies or pharmaceutical companies, etc., but in general, that's the indicator and how it works.
Great. So let's take a listen to today's dialogue and find out how these words are used in context. And we'll be back in a moment to talk about what's going on.
Sorry to bother you, sir, but I have some bad news.
What is it?
Well, the stock market just took a huge plunge, and we've lost a lot of money.
What do you mean? What happened?
There are many factors that weigh in, but Nasdaq is down 200 points. The Dow Jones indicator also suffered. Our portfolio is worth half of what it was worth 1 week ago.
How is this possible? You are supposed to be talking to our stockbrokers and making sure that our securities and investments are safe and making a profitable return.
I know, sir. We didn't expect a bull market to become a bear market all of a sudden. On the other hand, you still have some high-yield trash bonds and government bonds that will give us enough liquidity to cut our losses and reinvest in emerging markets. We could potentially make this tragedy work for us and make us think outside the box.
Do what you have to do. One other thing, don't tell the rest of the stockholders about this. If they find out, it's the end of this company.
All right, we're back. So a lot of interesting words there. I think a lot of them were very specific to the stock market and very, maybe a little bit difficult. So why don't we take a look at a couple of those and language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Okay, so this first word is a very important word in banking and finance. We talk about portfolios a lot. So portfolio.
Right. So basically a portfolio is the variety of things that you own. For example, in the stock market, it could be stocks, it could be bonds, it can be mutual funds, etc. Or, for example, if you're a company, your product portfolio could be all the products that your company owns.
That's right. So in this case, our portfolio is worth half what it was a week ago. And so this is a sentence that means, we've lost half of the money we invested.
Right.
All of our investments are in a portfolio. We talk about them as a portfolio. And when we lose money, we mean we say our portfolio is worth less now than it was before.
Exactly. And well, moving on, he starts to talk about the bull market and the bear market. So what is this all about?
Well, a bull is an animal with horns.
Right.
And a bear is another animal. So we're not talking about animals here.
Right.
We're talking about special finance phrases.
Right. So the bull market would be again, talking about companies and trading. It would be maybe a market that's growing very rapidly, that's very, very strong. That's a bull market.
So people often talk about China's bull market, right?
Right.
How China continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. Mm-hmm. But a market that slows down, like the United States last year, would be a bear market.
Right. So think of a bear, maybe it's sleeping, it goes it's into hibernation. That's a bear market. So a slow market. It's not really growing.
Very good. But talking about a portfolio again, we might have stocks, but in this case, the two people are talking about their bonds.
Right.
So he says you still have some high yield trash bonds and government bonds. What's a high yield bond and what's a trash bond?
Okay, so when we think about the word yield is how much it gives, right? So how much we are getting from it. So something that is high yield means that you're getting a lot from it.
For example, this orange tree yields 300 oranges per year.
Okay,
That's
so
how much we get from it.
exactly. So we're getting 300 oranges. That's how much it's yielding. And so so basically that's what yield means. So when we talk about trash bonds, this on the other hand, it's a word that's maybe a little bit tricky, but a bond is a promise that you get from the seller that he's going to pay you back the money that you give him with interest. Right? But a trash bond is a very risky bond. It means that the seller might not pay you back because, he's still trying to get all the money.
All right, but a high yield trash bond means that you might make a lot of money from this bond unless, of course, it's not very dependable.
Exactly. So,
It's risky.
of course, since it's riskier, it has more yield.
Great. So high yield trash bond. And then what about this? They will give us liquidity to cut our losses. Liquidity. We hear all about liquidity in finance.
Exactly. Maybe in your company, the accountant will talk about this. And that's basically just to have money, cash in hand. So you have money to pay things or to buy things, right? Not
Okay,
with
so it's available.
available, yeah. Not with credit. The opposite of credit.
Okay, liquidity. And finally, instead, what are we going to do? Let's think outside the box. We could reinvest in emerging markets.
And this is a very hot topic lately, talking about emerging markets. So to emerge means to come up, right? To rise.
Yeah, to come out. So it's almost like new or growing markets. So in this case, an emerging market would be, for example, the Southeast Asian market, which is growing quickly, or even you could say West African market. We're talking about places in the world that aren't established. They're not old and dependable. They're new and exciting.
Right. So they're coming up. So that's an emerging market. So a lot of very interesting words and phrases. They're very related to our topic. And so why don't we move on now? Let's take a look at two key phrases on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
This first phrase is something we've heard a lot about in the last year or two with things not going so well in the world of finance. The first one, here we go, to cut our losses.
Okay, so let's cut our losses. So when you talk about cutting your losses, that means to try and stop losing money somehow. Maybe sell early.
That's right. So in this case, we're losing money. Let's stop now. Let's stop
Right.
everything. Cut our losses. That means cut them away, forget about them, throw them away, and start again. Okay, so we could say, my business is failing. I'm going to cut my losses, sell the business, and start again.
Right. That's exactly it. So to cut your losses means to stop doing something, maybe sell it, and stop losing money.
Basically, you accept the fact that you lost it, you can't get it back, and you start
Right.
again.
So when they were talking about investing in emerging markets, he said, well, maybe we could do this, and that would force us to think outside the box.
Okay, this is a great phrase, and you might hear this in meetings a lot or from your manager. What's going on here is these two people are talking about how they lost a lot of money. The economy is bad, and they've been doing things in a normal way for a long time. It's not working. Let's think outside the box. That means let's be creative. Let's try and discover new ways of doing things that will yield positive results.
That's right. This is a very, very common phrase, very widely used in business or when you're talking about ideas is people tell you to think outside the box, to maybe break some of the rules, right?
Right. Don't just think the way that you always do. Don't do the same thing over and over. Do something new, be creative, come up with something great. So that's thinking outside the box.
Right. Very good. So a lot of great phrases there. I think we've learned quite a bit. Why don't we listen to the dialogue one last time, and we'll be back to talk a little bit more about this very interesting topic.
Sorry to bother you, sir, but I have some bad news.
What is it?
Well, the stock market just took a huge plunge, and we've lost a lot of money.
What do you mean? What happened?
There are many factors that weigh in, but Nasdaq is down 200 points. The Dow Jones indicator also suffered. Our portfolio is worth half of what it was worth 1 week ago.
How is this possible? You are supposed to be talking to our stockbrokers and making sure that our securities and investments are safe and making a profitable return.
I know, sir. We didn't expect a bull market to become a bear market all of a sudden. On the other hand, you still have some high-yield trash bonds and government bonds that will give us enough liquidity to cut our losses and reinvest in emerging markets. We could potentially make this tragedy work for us and make us think outside the box.
Do what you have to do. One other thing, don't tell the rest of the stockholders about this. If they find out, it's the end of this company.
So I remember being a little kid and watching TV with my parents, and on the news there was always the business segment, and in this you'd always hear the Nasdaq is down 10 points. The Dow Jones Industrial today is down 10 points. Yesterday was up 2. That's an average of 8. Okay.
Yeah, it's very complicated, especially if you take a look also in the newspaper. Sometimes it shows you different publicly traded companies, and it has a bunch of numbers. It's a very interesting topic. It's almost a science, I think.
Very much a science, and some people have made a lot of money playing the stock market and trying to buy stocks when they're low, wait until they're high, sell them off, and make tons.
Yeah, it's pretty much analyzing risk, so making calculated decisions, and that's why they use all these formulas and all these different ratios and ways to ponder how much they should invest or what would they gain. And so it's very, very interesting. Many people compare it to gambling, but it's kind of like gambling, but not really, because you don't really depend on luck. You kind of make calculated decisions.
And sometimes you're trading for big companies, or even parts of big markets, like parts of entire countries' businesses. Yeah, so
a lot of people, for example, stockbrokers will invest a group of workers' retirement funds. They will take those funds and be like, hey, you're maybe getting 5% from the bank for keeping your money there. Give me the money and I'll give you 25% yield on your investment. So so obviously they're playing not only their reputation, but also with other people's life savings.
And that's why a lot of people lost money when 2 years ago the bubble really burst in a lot of areas like real estate. Stock prices went down. The United States went into a recession, and all these people's retirement funds, their savings, they lost it. Yeah. And so you got to be careful with this kind of stuff and do your homework.
Money? Sometimes people find themselves in situations where they need more money than they currently have. This can happen for many reasons. For example, they might want to buy something expensive, such as a car or a house. Sometimes people need extra money to pay for school or to start a business. Other times, unexpected problems arise, like a medical emergency or a broken appliance, and they need money quickly. When people do not have enough savings, they may decide to rent money. Renting money means borrowing money from a bank, a credit company, or even another person and agreeing to pay it back later. When someone rents money, they do not receive it for free. They must pay back the original amount they borrowed, called the principal. In addition to the principal, they also pay extra money, called interest. Interest is the cost of renting the money. The lender, which could be a bank or another person, charges this extra amount to make a profit. Interest can be a small amount or a large amount, depending on how much money is borrowed and how long the borrower takes to repay it. The longer it takes to pay the money back, the more interest the borrower usually has to pay. There are different ways to rent money. One common way is through a loan. A loan is when a bank or another financial institution gives someone a specific amount of money. The borrower agrees to pay the money back in small amounts over time. These small amounts are called payments or installments. For example, if someone borrows money to buy a car, they may make monthly payments for several years until they pay back the full amount plus interest. Another way to rent money is through a credit card. When people use a credit card, they are borrowing money to pay for things. If they do not pay the full amount back quickly, they will also pay interest on the borrowed money. Renting money can be helpful in many situations. It allows people to buy things they need or want without waiting until they save all the money. This can be very useful when something urgent happens. For example, if a person's car breaks down and they need to fix it immediately to go to work. Renting money can help them solve the problem. It can also help people achieve big goals, like going to university or starting a business. Without borrowing money, many people would not be able to afford these important things. However, renting money also comes with risks. If people do not pay back the money on time, they can face serious problems. For example, the bank or lender may charge extra fees or increase the interest rate, making the debt even bigger. If someone borrows too much money and cannot pay it back, they might lose valuable things, like their house or car. Sometimes, unpaid debt can affect a person's credit score. A credit score is a number that shows how good someone is at paying back money. If someone has a low credit score, it can be harder for them to borrow money in the future. It is important to understand how renting money works before borrowing. People should always know how much they need to borrow and how much they will have to pay back, including the interest. They should also plan how they will make the payments on time. When people are careful and responsible, renting money can be a useful tool to improve their lives. But if they are not careful, it can cause stress and financial problems. Learning about renting money helps people make smart decisions and avoid debt problems in the future. When people decide to rent money, they must follow certain steps to borrow it successfully. First, they need to choose where to borrow the money. There are many places where people can rent money. Banks are a common choice because they are reliable and offer different types of loans. Other financial institutions, such as credit unions or online lenders, also allow people to borrow money. Sometimes, people borrow money from friends or family members. Each option has different rules and conditions, so it is important to understand them before making a decision. After choosing where to borrow money, the next step is to apply for it. Applying for a loan or credit means filling out a form and providing information about yourself. Lenders want to know if a borrower can pay back the money, so they ask for details like the borrower's job, income, and other debts. They may also check the borrower's credit score. A high credit score means a person is good at paying back money, while a low credit score can make borrowing more difficult. Lenders use this information to decide if they will lend the money and how much interest to charge. If the lender approves the application, they give the borrower the money. The borrower agrees to pay back the money in small payments over time. These payments include both the principal, which is the original amount borrowed, and the interest, which is the extra cost for borrowing. The payments are usually made every month, but some loans may have different schedules. It is important for the borrower to understand how much they must pay each time and how long it will take to pay back the loan fully. Borrowers must also understand the terms and conditions of the loan. Terms and conditions explain the rules for borrowing money. They include the interest rate, which is the percentage of extra money the borrower pays. They also include the loan period, which is the time the borrower has to pay back the money. Some loans have fixed interest rates, which means the amount of interest stays the same. Other loans have variable interest rates, which means the interest can change over time. It is important to read these details carefully to avoid surprises. Once people start making payments, they need to be responsible and pay on time. Paying on time is very important because it helps the borrower avoid extra fees or penalties. If someone misses a payment, the lender may charge a late fee. If many payments are missed, the lender might take serious action. For example, if someone borrowed money to buy a car and cannot pay, the lender may take the car away. This is called repossession. Missing payments can also hurt a person's credit score, making it harder to borrow money in the future. To avoid problems, many people make a budget before borrowing money. A budget is a plan that shows how much money a person earns and spends. By making a budget, borrowers can check if they can afford the payments before renting money. They can also plan how to pay the money back on time. It is a good idea to borrow only what is needed and not more, as larger loans mean higher payments and more interest. Renting money can be helpful if people follow the steps carefully. Choosing the right lender, understanding the terms, and making payments on time are all important. Being responsible with borrowed money can help people reach their goals without causing financial problems. It is always best to think carefully before borrowing and to have a clear plan to pay the money back. When people rent money, it is important to understand the different types of loans available. There are many kinds of loans, and each type is used for a specific purpose. Knowing the differences can help borrowers choose the best option for their needs. Some loans are designed for buying big things like houses or cars, while others are for smaller needs like medical bills or everyday expenses. Each type of loan has its own rules about how much money can be borrowed, how long it takes to pay it back, and how much interest the borrower will pay. One common type of loan is a personal loan. People use personal loans for many different reasons. Some use them to pay for emergencies, like hospital bills or home repairs. Others use them to pay for vacations or special events. Personal loans are usually unsecured, which means the borrower does not need to give anything as a guarantee. However, because there is no guarantee, the lender may charge a higher interest rate. Personal loans usually have fixed payments, meaning the borrower pays the same amount each month until the loan is fully paid. Another common type of loan is a mortgage. A mortgage is a loan used to buy a house or other property. Mortgages are usually large loans because houses are expensive. These loans often take many years to pay back, sometimes 15, 20, or even 30 years. Because the loan is so large, the interest rate is usually lower than other types of loans. However, if the borrower does not pay on time, the lender can take the house. This is called foreclosure. Mortgages can have either fixed interest rates, which stay the same, or variable interest rates, which can change over time. Car loans are also a popular type of loan. People use car loans to buy new or used vehicles. Like mortgages, car loans are usually secured, meaning the car is used as a guarantee. If the borrower does not make payments, the lender can take the car away. Car loans often last between 3 to 7 years. The longer the loan, the lower the monthly payments, but the total amount of interest will be higher. It is important to choose a loan period that fits the borrower's budget and allows them to pay on time. Another type of loan is a student loan. Student loans help people pay for education, such as college or university. Education can be expensive, and many people cannot pay all the costs at once. With a student loan, people can study and pay the money back later. Student loans often have lower interest rates compared to other loans, and some do not require payments while the borrower is still in school. However, once the borrower finishes school, they must start making payments. It is important to understand the repayment terms to avoid falling behind on payments. Credit cards are another way to rent money. When people use a credit card, they are borrowing money from the credit card company. They can use the card to buy things and pay the money back later. If they pay the full amount by the due date, they usually do not have to pay interest. However, if they do not pay the full amount, the company charges interest on the remaining balance. Credit cards can be convenient, but they often have high interest rates. If people are not careful, credit card debt can become very large and difficult to repay. Some people also use payday loans. Payday loans are small, short-term loans that people use when they need money quickly. These loans usually must be paid back by the borrower's next payday. While they are easy to get, payday loans have very high interest rates and fees. If someone cannot pay back the loan on time, the debt can grow quickly. Because of the high cost, payday loans should only be used in emergencies, and if there are no other options. Home equity loans are another option for people who already own a house. This type of loan allows homeowners to borrow money using the value of their home as a guarantee. The amount they can borrow depends on how much of the house they own. Home equity loans usually have lower interest rates because they are secured by the house. However, if the borrower does not make payments, they risk losing their home. It is important to choose the right type of loan for the situation. Before borrowing, people should think about how much money they need, how long they will take to pay it back, and how much interest they will pay. Different loans have different costs, and some loans are riskier than others. Being careful and understanding the loan terms can help people avoid financial problems and make the best decision for their needs. When people rent money, it is important to understand the different types of loans available. There are many kinds of loans, and each type is used for a specific purpose. Knowing the differences can help borrowers choose the best option for their needs. Some loans are designed for buying big things like houses or cars, while others are for smaller needs like medical bills or everyday expenses. Each type of loan has its own rules about how much money can be borrowed, how long it takes to pay it back, and how much interest the borrower will pay. One common type of loan is a personal loan. People use personal loans for many different reasons. Some use them to pay for emergencies like hospital bills or home repairs. Others use them to pay for vacations or special events. Personal loans are usually unsecured, which means the borrower does not need to give anything as a guarantee. However, because there is no guarantee, the lender may charge a higher interest rate. Personal loans usually have fixed payments, meaning the borrower pays the same amount each month until the loan is fully paid. Another common type of loan is a mortgage. A mortgage is a loan used to buy a house or other property. Mortgages are usually large loans because houses are expensive. These loans often take many years to pay back, sometimes 15, 20, or even 30 years. Because the loan is so large, the interest rate is usually lower than other types of loans. However, if the borrower does not pay on time, the lender can take the house. This is called foreclosure. Mortgages can have either fixed interest rates, which stay the same, or variable interest rates, which can change over time. Car loans are also a popular type of loan. People use car loans to buy new or used vehicles. Like mortgages, car loans are usually secured, meaning the car is used as a guarantee. If the borrower does not make payments, the lender can take the car away. Car loans often last between 3 to 7 years. The longer the loan, the lower the monthly payments, but the total amount of interest will be higher. It is important to choose a loan period that fits the borrower's budget and allows them to pay on time. Another type of loan is a student loan. Student loans help people pay for education, such as college or university. Education can be expensive, and many people cannot pay all the costs at once. With a student loan, people can study and pay the money back later. Student loans often have lower interest rates compared to other loans, and some do not require payments while the borrower is still in school. However, once the borrower finishes school, they must start making payments. It is important to understand the repayment terms to avoid falling behind on payments. Credit cards are another way to rent money. When people use a credit card, they are borrowing money from the credit card company. They can use the card to buy things and pay the money back later. If they pay the full amount by the due date, they usually do not have to pay interest. However, if they do not pay the full amount, the company charges interest on the remaining balance. Credit cards can be convenient, but they often have high interest rates. If people are not careful, credit card debt can become very large and difficult to repay. Some people also use payday loans. Payday loans are small, short-term loans that people use when they need money quickly. These loans usually must be paid back by the borrower's next payday. While they are easy to get, payday loans have very high interest rates and fees. If someone cannot pay back the loan on time, the debt can grow quickly. Because of the high cost, payday loans should only be used in emergencies and if there are no other options. Home equity loans are another option for people who already own a house. This type of loan allows homeowners to borrow money using the value of their home as a guarantee. The amount they can borrow depends on how much of the house they own. Home equity loans usually have lower interest rates because they are secured by the house. However, if the borrower does not make payments, they risk losing their home. It is important to choose the right type of loan for the situation. Before borrowing, people should think about how much money they need, how long they will take to pay it back, and how much interest they will pay. Different loans have different costs, and some loans are riskier than others. Being careful and understanding the loan terms can help people avoid financial problems and make the best decision for their needs. When people rent money, it is important to understand the responsibilities that come with borrowing. Borrowing money is not free, and lenders expect to be repaid according to the agreement. Being a responsible borrower means understanding the loan terms, making payments on time, and managing debt carefully. If borrowers do not meet their responsibilities, they can face serious financial problems. Understanding these responsibilities helps people protect their financial health and avoid stress. One of the main responsibilities of borrowing money is making payments on time. When someone takes out a loan or uses a credit card, they agree to pay back the money in regular amounts. These payments often happen every month, and each payment includes part of the principal and interest. Paying on time is very important because missing payments can lead to late fees, higher interest rates, and a damaged credit score. If a borrower is late on several payments, the lender may take legal action or reclaim the property purchased with the loan, such as a car or house. To avoid these problems, it is helpful to set reminders or use automatic payments to ensure that payments are made on time. Another responsibility of borrowing money is understanding the loan terms. Before accepting a loan, borrowers should read and understand all the details. This includes the interest rate, the loan period, and any additional fees. Knowing these terms helps borrowers understand how much they will pay each month and the total cost of the loan. Some loans have penalties for paying off the loan early, called prepayment penalties. Others have fees for missing a payment or requesting changes to the loan. Being aware of these conditions helps borrowers avoid unexpected costs and make better financial decisions. Responsible borrowers also need to manage their debt wisely. This means borrowing only what is needed and making a plan to repay the money. Taking on too much debt can lead to financial difficulties. When borrowers have several loans or credit cards, the monthly payments can become too high to manage. It is important to create a budget to track income and expenses. A budget helps borrowers see how much they can afford to borrow and how they will repay it. By keeping debt levels low and making payments on time, people can maintain good financial health and avoid stress. Communication with the lender is also an important responsibility. If a borrower faces financial difficulties and cannot make a payment, it is better to contact the lender right away. Many lenders are willing to work with borrowers to find solutions. For example, they may offer to change the payment schedule, reduce the payment amount, or provide a temporary pause on payments. Ignoring the problem or failing to communicate with the lender can lead to more serious consequences, such as legal action or loss of property. Open and honest communication can help borrowers manage difficult situations more effectively. Borrowers are also responsible for protecting their credit score. A credit score is a number that shows how responsible a person is with money. Lenders check credit scores before approving loans. A high credit score makes it easier to borrow money and get better interest rates. A low credit score can make borrowing more expensive or even impossible. Making payments on time, keeping debt low, and avoiding too many new loans can help protect a borrower's credit score. Reviewing credit reports regularly can also help people find and fix mistakes that could harm their credit. Another responsibility is to avoid using loans for unnecessary things. Borrowing money can be helpful for important expenses, such as buying a house, paying for education, or handling emergencies. However, borrowing money for things that are not necessary, such as luxury items or vacations, can create long-term financial problems. Responsible borrowers think carefully about whether they really need to borrow money and if they can afford to pay it back. If borrowing is not necessary, it is usually better to save money instead. Borrowers should also understand their rights when renting money. In many countries, there are laws that protect people who borrow money. These laws require lenders to be clear about loan terms and prevent unfair practices. Borrowers have the right to know the total cost of the loan, including the interest rate and fees. They also have the right to receive loan documents and to ask questions about anything they do not understand. Knowing these rights helps borrowers make informed decisions and protect themselves from unfair treatment. Being a responsible borrower also means planning for the future. Borrowers should think about how their financial situation may change over time. For example, if someone loses their job or faces unexpected expenses, it could become harder to make loan payments. Having an emergency savings fund can help borrowers continue making payments during difficult times. It is also helpful to review loans regularly and look for opportunities to pay them off faster or refinance them for better terms. Long-term planning helps borrowers stay in control of their finances and avoid debt problems. In conclusion, renting money comes with important responsibilities. Borrowers must understand their loan terms, make payments on time, manage debt wisely, and communicate with lenders when problems arise, protecting a good credit score, borrowing only when necessary, and knowing borrower rights are also important. By being responsible and planning for the future, borrowers can use rented money to achieve their goals without creating financial problems. Responsible borrowing is the key to maintaining financial stability and avoiding unnecessary stress. When people rent money, it is important to understand the risks and challenges that come with borrowing. While borrowing can be helpful for big purchases or emergencies, it can also create serious financial problems if not managed carefully. Knowing these risks helps people make better decisions and avoid situations that could harm their financial future. Borrowing money is a responsibility, and understanding the potential dangers can prevent mistakes and reduce stress. One major risk of borrowing money is falling into debt that is difficult to repay. When people borrow too much, their monthly payments can become overwhelming. If a borrower cannot make their payments, the debt can grow quickly due to added interest and fees. This can create a cycle where it becomes harder and harder to pay off the loan. For example, credit card debt can increase quickly if the borrower only makes minimum payments. The interest adds up each month, making it harder to reduce the balance. To avoid this risk, borrowers should only take loans they can afford and make more than the minimum payment whenever possible. Another challenge is dealing with high interest rates. Some loans, such as payday loans and credit cards, have very high interest rates. If the borrower does not pay back the money quickly, the total amount owed can grow much larger. High interest rates make it harder to pay off the debt and can lead to long-term financial struggles. Borrowers should compare different lenders and choose loans with the lowest possible interest rates. Understanding the type of interest, whether simple or compound, also helps borrowers know how quickly their debt will grow. Missing payments is another serious risk when borrowing money. If a borrower misses a payment, the lender may charge late fees and increase the interest rate. Missed payments also hurt the borrower's credit score, which makes it harder to borrow money in the future. In some cases, missing several payments can lead to legal action or losing property. For example, if someone does not pay their car loan, the lender may take the car back. To avoid missed payments, it is helpful to set reminders or use automatic payments. If a borrower knows they will be late, contacting the lender can sometimes prevent penalties. Another challenge is the risk of losing valuable property. Many loans are secured, meaning the borrower must provide something valuable, such as a car or a house, as a guarantee. If the borrower cannot repay the loan, the lender can take the property to recover their money. This process is called repossession or foreclosure. Losing property can be stressful and life-changing. Before taking a secured loan, Borrowers should be sure they can make the payments. It is also important to understand what happens if they miss payments. Borrowing money can also create emotional stress and anxiety. Managing debt can be overwhelming, especially when the payments are too high or unexpected expenses arise. Some borrowers feel constant worry about how they will pay their bills. This stress can affect their health and personal relationships. To reduce stress, borrowers should plan carefully before taking a loan and have a strategy to repay the money. Talking to a financial advisor can also help manage debt and find better solutions. Another risk is relying too much on borrowed money. Some people become dependent on loans to cover everyday expenses. This can lead to a dangerous cycle where new loans are used to pay off old ones. This is called a debt trap. It becomes harder to escape the cycle because the debt grows with each new loan. To avoid this, borrowers should try to live within their means and save money for emergencies. Using loans for necessary and planned expenses rather than everyday needs helps avoid becoming trapped in debt. Unexpected life changes can also create challenges for borrowers. If a borrower loses their job, becomes sick, or faces other emergencies, it may become difficult to make loan payments. This can lead to missed payments, higher debt, and even legal problems. To protect themselves, borrowers can build an emergency fund to cover a few months of expenses. Some lenders offer loan protection plans, which can help in case of job loss or illness. Planning for the unexpected is a smart way to manage the risks of borrowing money. There is also a risk of being tricked by dishonest lenders. Some lenders use unfair practices, such as hidden fees, very high interest rates, or confusing loan terms. This is called predatory lending. Borrowers should be careful and research lenders before accepting a loan. Reading all loan documents carefully and asking questions helps avoid scams. If something seems too good to be true, it is important to be cautious and seek advice. Financial education is an important tool to manage the risks of borrowing money. Understanding how loans work, how interest is calculated, and how to compare loan options helps borrowers make better decisions. Many organizations offer free resources to help people learn about managing money and debt. Educated borrowers are less likely to face financial problems because they know how to borrow responsibly and avoid common mistakes. In conclusion, borrowing money comes with many risks and challenges. These include falling into debt, dealing with high interest rates, missing payments, and losing property. Borrowing can also create emotional stress and lead to dependence on loans. Unexpected life changes and dishonest lenders add further risks. However, by understanding these challenges and planning carefully, borrowers can protect themselves and manage their debt responsibly. Financial education, good communication with lenders, and careful budgeting are key to avoiding problems and using borrowed money wisely. Responsible borrowing helps people achieve their goals while maintaining financial stability and peace of mind.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. A steep and rapid fall. Plunge. To contribute, especially in a discussion. Weigh in. Affording gain, benefit, or profit. Profitable. The amount of something that is produced. Yield. Take another look at something. Think outside the box. Let's try that faster. To contribute, especially in a discussion. Weigh in. Affording gain, benefit, or profit. Profitable. Take another look at something. Think outside the box. The amount of something that is produced. Yield. A steep and rapid fall. Plunge. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. Plunge. The prices of houses in the U.S. took a huge plunge this month. Plunge. The car went off the road and plunged into the abyss. Plunge. The value of our stock has taken a major plunge. Weigh in. Carol usually weighs in with good ideas at our meetings. Weigh in. Many factors weighed into our decision to fire you. Weigh in. If you weigh in all the pros and cons of buying a new TV, you would see that we don't really need it. Profitable. Their business is very profitable. Profitable. I think we can be profitable if we reduce our operational costs. Profitable. Real estate is one of the most profitable businesses in the world. Yield. The stock you currently own yields about 10% per annum. Yield. I am very unhappy with the yield of these securities. Yield. The yield on your securities could be greatly affected with inflation. Think outside the box. When you have to solve a problem, it's good to think outside the box. Think outside the box. Some of the great inventions of our time were invented because inventors decided to think outside the box. Think outside the box. Thinking outside the box can offer a different and novel perspective on things and life.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. See you next time.